Hello everyone and welcome to a hype WARNO video, and we're gonna talk about the changes coming to Army General and the 4 big campaigns that we will get at launch on the 23rd. All the improvements that we got and the 4 campaigns, what makes them unique and which one might be the best for you to start with and what will be in all of those. So, yep, as you can see, I already finished all of those, so I have a bit of info about all of them. They were really fun to play with. You can play them in 1v1 or 2v2 multiplayer. You can play them in up to 3-player co-op. You can play them just versus the AI. And the AI is pretty decent. Improved a good bit on the strategic map since the first build we got. And yeah, let's have a look into Fulda Gap and start there, which is chronologically the first one together with Airborne. It's basically the south of Fulda Creek, and yeah, let's jump in there. So here we are in Fulda Gap, and let's start with the improvements first. And the first one that is really important for the campaign in general in my eyes is that voice actors are now real humans and they speak in their native language. So as you will hear now, major sites are here talking in Russian. If you have a German general, they will talk in German, no matter east or west, though obviously with an accent there as well, which is nice. And then you have obviously British and American speaking in their version of English. And then another important feature here is that we down here have a not moved or still capable of moving unit button. Plus over here we have a wait until next turn so that you can remove a unit from there. So those are nice changes. The AI on the battlefield, as I said, has improved as well. And then another big improvement here that we can show off here that was highly recommended as well, requested as well, is that if you go to tactical battle and click on tactical map, you see what map you will be on and what the layout will be. From here on, you can still go back. If you want to auto-resolve it or something like that, you can do that. If you want to change the units that are coming, you can do that as well. Obviously, it would be a step better if the map would already be shown here, if you could look at it here, but it's still good that you can do it in some way. So, nice changes there. And now, let's talk about the campaigns. So, yeah, this one is the Fulda Gap one. We already know the North to some extent. That's the 3rd Regiment of the 11th ACR that we already know, and all the East Germans coming for it, but you have way more room for maneuver now, and you have, more importantly, a lot of strong Soviet forces, including some strong helicopter formations, including some strong plane formations here in the rear as well. And on the other side, you have high-level American formations with the other 2 regiments of 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, the other 2 parts of the 11th Cavalry Regiment. You have parts of 8th US Infantry, and then 3rd US Armored coming in as a support from the north. The West Germans will be around as well, with 5th Panzer coming in, and then you also have a lot of really cool choices in this one. Like, the choices in this one and in most other campaigns are way more impactful than what you saw in Bruder Creek, with some of the units that you can choose between being pretty awesome, and then also some big decisions between victory points or some units and stuff like that. So that's really nice. As you can see, a lot of units coming available as well. And this map also allows a lot of room for maneuver. Yeah, the Soviets have a lot of stuff to push through, but for example, as the zones that you have to capture are spread out and Soviet is on the attack, the way that the NATO falls back and where they want to stand and take a fight and make a fighting retreat will be interesting. NATO is all about defense in this one, so the goal is absolutely for PAC to break through here, and that's what it is all about. But NATO can play with some aggression here as well. And Peter Toast, thanks for the follow at this moment. So, yep, like the NATO side here being all about the defense with a lot of strong forces coming in as well. Let's have a look onto the next one. That one being Airborne Assault. And Airborne Assault is the Soviets versus the West Germans, plus potentially a couple of Belgian units as well, and a bit of British forces, but mostly the the Germans here, with a lot of armored and mechanized versus mostly mechanized forces here of the Soviets, though a couple of tanks coming through here as well. And then the airborne units over here that you need to try to get. It's all about getting through here. The big victory point is Kassel, so they're trying to use these forces to keep the enemy occupied, getting more airborne units landing here and holding out against any potential enemy armored counter push. While it's getting there, over there, with your mechanized forces. A bit more focused campaign. It's the second smallest after Fulda Gap. Though you have some room for maneuver as well, especially as the territory is not that restrictive. Like, you have a lot of roads and so on, so the movement here is somewhat free. But Kassel obviously has to be kept some way or another for the victory points, so that is pretty important. And then you need to break through there. You have a lot of Soviet tanks, as you can see, and mechanized forces especially, which have some tanks inside as well. And then on the other side, as you can see, a lot of Germans with tanks, and then mechanized. A lot of Marders to hold the front line. Leo 2's coming in later. The decisions in this one, not quite as big, but still quite important. And yeah, it's the German versus the Soviets in this one. So, pretty cool one as well. But a bit further forward, I would say, if you want to have just a versus campaign, this one might be one of the better ones, though it's like also still somewhat tilted to the Soviets when it comes just to the amount of sheer forces in this one. But you can finish it somewhat quickly, as there are not that many units, and the turns with 12 are also somewhat short, so it can be finished in multiplayer versus relatively quickly. Yep, let's move on to the next one, which is the left hook. And let's get to the left hook, which has the British, the Belgian, and the West Germans up versus the Soviets. And this one is an interesting one, as it's the first one that has a back and forth, and with the initiative at the beginning being with the Soviets, but later switching over to the NATO, and both sides having somewhat equal forces in general. So that's what you can also see in the objectives. It's a really big grind. It's the one with the least direct room for outmaneuvering the enemy, and more of a putting heavy concentrations of forces down to try to get to an objective, as the objectives are pretty far in the rear on both sides, Kassel and Göttingen and Paderborn and Berlin. And as you can see, the objective here, even if you have all of them, you're not even half of the points. So this is a lot about destroying enemy units, this campaign, and it's the brawliest of them in that regard. And you have on NATO side, as you can see, a lot of British forces coming in here with 3rd Armored, and you have a couple more forces here of 3rd Armored already up front, and then the Belgians coming in with their units. If you want to have some new units, this is the Army General to check out. They have some Scimitars, they have their Leo 1 versions, they have their GSR GVP here, which is their GSR line unit here as well. They have their special transport as well, which we can't check out here right now, but the AAVB you will have here as well. And you have some interesting helicopters here with hell arms as well. And then the Germans over here, the 2nd Panzer Grenadier, and with a good couple of Panzer Grenadiers and so on as well, and Leos, as you would expect, but already a bit bruised up. It's one of the first campaign that you can see that starts a bit later, so units already pretty hurt here, especially the pincer of the Soviets, that prong here, already quite beaten up. Even a couple units with stress and so on, as you can see as well. So in that regard, quite the interesting formation. TKS coming around with some Jaegers here in the rear as well. And on the other side, if we have a look on the Soviets, you will see quite a lot of tanks. It's all Soviets, no East Germans in this one. And yeah, the Soviet forces here not super special. They are mostly mechanized and tank formations with artillery, a couple of rocket artillery and so on. The choices here mostly around air, a couple of more interesting ones as well, but relatively standard in that regard. But as I said, this is the most brawliest of them all. And if you just want to have straight out big fights and you want to have the British and the Belgians, then this one want to go for, especially with the Belgians. I think that's really cool, and having the British involved here already is quite nice as well. So yeah, if you want to have that, this is the Army General to come by for that part. And the final campaign, and the by far biggest, is the Highway 66 one, or Autobahn 66. And it is the one with the most units and a good mix of units as well. It's a lot of bruised formations as well, and it has a big decision on both sides from the get-go, as both sides can choose the deployment area of a full division at the beginning. We can either, for example, as NATO here, choose them at Miltenberg or at Würzburg to come in. The first armored, with Würzburg obviously being focused directly here on the southern attack, and Miltenberg being a bit more flexible. You could help out here, you could shift over here and break through here. And yep, the follow-up decisions afterwards in this one a bit smaller, but the big one here at the beginning, obviously pretty impactful there. You have a lot of high-level American formations here. 8th US is moving around.
Understood, sir. We will relay your chosen location to the division.
First US will come in then in later stages. Over here, we have up north some Germans. We have in the center mostly Americans. We have some German helping units as well, military police and so on as well. A lot of headquarters in this one as well, so a lot of belt depots going around. And down here in the south, we have the 12th Panzer Division, which even gets some layer 2A1s. So stat-wise, pretty close to a layer 2A3, as the only difference IRL is focused on the radio, or the big difference is their communication equipment there. And yeah, here we have some 3rd US infantry. We have way more, as you can see, a lot of better improved formations as well. Packed will get really strong units as well. We have a look on that in a second. And then you have a lot of planes here in the rear as well, with all of these units coming around. So it's really the one where you have the biggest battles. It starts with a lot of units on the front line on both sides, so it starts really brawly, but it gets into a war maneuver quite quickly once each side decides where the focus is and where they want to break through, if they want to take Frankfurt and so on. As you can see, there's a lot of objectives, and all of them bring points for holding as well, so you want to get there and grab them. And yeah, it's a big back and forth with NATO. Most, in my experience, though I haven't played it against players yet, being the one that has it a bit easier to push back in the later game and having a bit more forces there. But Pact absolutely has a chance of breaking through here to Frankfurt and Gießen early on maybe as well. So reaching 200 points, it will happen in this campaign. You have 15 turns, but you might not even play it till the end, because so many units will die in this one. So yeah, it's really the massive campaign here. And yeah, let's have a look on the Soviet side. As the Soviets get some reinforcements here in the rear. They have the 11th Mordschützen and the 4th here. They will be able to choose where their 7th Panzer will be deployed. So they have a choice, a big choice there as well, where they want to bring on those last reserves. And as you can see, a lot of heavy forces here, including some TADUs. So the biggest of voids here in number. You have 3 formations with TADUs and UDs inside. So that really is what you have to use to break through Frankfurt if you want to get there. Or push towards Gießen if you maybe want to get there. Or reposition them for defensive usage, for example, in the south, to stop a push to Bad Kissing and Schweinfurt, as those are obviously pretty important capture points as well. Alsfeld maybe not quite in reach for them, but yeah, outside of that, a lot of Soviet formations down here, a couple of bruised 11th Machutson formations as well. So really heavy fighting, a lot of cool different battles in this campaign, as you have fights all over the front every time, and they will involve a lot of different kind of units as well, different terrain. So for sure, a really good campaign. Question is just, do you have that much time in your hand? That's really the big question with this campaign, as it obviously takes a long while to finish. I played through it with auto-resolve, and it still took me a long while to get through there. Like, I didn't play many battles, and it still took me 8 hours to get through, or 9 hours, just with auto-resolves. So that is really what this campaign is all about. But if you have a couple of friends and you want to have a big WARNO experience, this one is the one to go for. And yeah, let me know down below which one will be your Forest Armor General campaign. And let me know what you think about them, where you maybe could improve, which ones you want to see in the future. And yep, with that said, we will have a couple of other videos talking about what's coming in 1.0. So consider subscribing to the channel if you don't want to miss that. And see you next time. Bye bye, and having a nice day.